Let me do a little quick introduction. This is a video that we've made with A Blade of Grass and Rava Films. It's all filmed during the release party in July of 2019. It's 9 minutes. If there's too much buffering that happens or it's not supported well by this platform, then we'll go ahead and stop it at that point and we'll move to a slideshow. Okay, is that okay, Kevin?
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. And Gregory, feel free to jump in and let me know to stop, things like that. All right. Okay. And good. Thank you. The film hasn't been released yet, so it's kind of a preview. Some of you have seen it. All right. Just want to make sure that when I share the video, you can also hear the audio. So good. I have that checked. All right. Here we go. Make it full screen. Yes.
The United States incarcerates more people per capita than any other country. We have 5% of the world's population, but 25% of the incarcerated individuals. When you look at everybody who has a record, it's about a third of the population. It's massive. What we were investigating was how could we translate advocacy and reform efforts into a visual language. And if we knew the power of one individual story, what would it be like to look at 40, 50, 100 individual stories? Future IDs at Alcatraz is an exhibition created by individuals with conviction histories as they visualize their future selves. So many people in this room merit acknowledgement for the contributions you've made to this project. I kept noticing how California was really leading reform efforts nationally. I built a relationship with this organization in Los Angeles called the Anti-Recidivism Coalition. Over 5 years, the Anti-Recidivism Coalition members and I have been meeting and planning and running workshops. My commitment was to investigate the difficult space of reentering society after periods of incarceration. The project has grown to partnerships with over 20 community organizations. The exhibition is a container for a series of community programs. Future IDs at Alcatraz Release Party is one of 26 programs that we've had to date in the exhibition space. Alcatraz has been designated as an international site of conscience. The National Park Service invited our program because it could further that platform.
Alcatraz is a very historic site. We get around 2 million visitors a year. People come out here wanting to learn about prisons. Unfortunately, people tend to come out here with very narrow visions of who or what a prisoner is. And so the unique part of this exhibit is that it shows a lot of the multifaceted identities that make up a lot of people who are or have been incarcerated.
I am a former juvenile lifer. At the age of 16, I was tried as an adult and convicted, sentenced to 25 years to life in prison, and I was released after 20 years. Parole departments had no idea what to do with us as young lifers because most lifers who were released were in their 60s or 70s. Here I was, 36 years old, wanting to build a life and get a job.
I'm here today with some of the core project collaborators.
We were working to try to change some of the laws.
Dominic Bell told this amazing story at one of our meetings about meeting with a very busy senator.
Let's be honest, politicians have a lot of concerns. Voting on behalf of a bill that may release a group of people that have been deemed dangerous to society. I told the senator, you don't have a lot of time to sit here and entertain my story. I'll just show you something.
Dominic pulled out his old inmate ID, and then he pulled out his university student ID. And he said, that's the difference. And we decided that there was something there worth investigating. Each artist in this exhibition did a lot of individual soul searching to identify some of their future goals and intentions. And then they translated that into an identification card.
boogeyman in the Kirn community. I was the doctor's kid who got into trouble, and I could see why people were so uncomfortable around me. You know, I was the person that they were striving not to be. You had people whose family would tell them, look, we didn't tell anyone where you were for a long time. Just say you left the country. Just say you were. I was told by many people that I should just forget about my past and try to move on with my life. But how can you not talk about something that at the time was really the majority of my life? I'm not supposed to talk about the fact that I spent 20 years in prison. This should not be a factor of shame to hide. My past does not define who I am today.
I brought my mom here, and I want to ask her what it was like for her. I spent most of my adult life in and out of prison. When someone is sentenced to prison, they do their sentence, and most of the time are rehabilitated and deserve a chance, like everybody else, to pursue their dreams. My own piece is about being on the board that the District Attorney of San Francisco has for formerly incarcerated individuals. I was prosecuted by this office 24 times in my life, and never in a million years would I think I'd be on the board of the same prosecuting office.
When I applied to Loyola Marymount, I wanted to be seen in that well-rounded package and not because I had went to jail and prison or had dealt with, substance abuse addiction issues. I didn't want that to be leading my story.
University of Resilience popped into my head. So essentially, it was how I looked to my future. I was like so constrained to put it actually on there, and Gregory was like, just put it on. Because from the art perspective, it was like, use your imagination. It's not like...
A lot of formerly incarcerated people have lost their imagination. It's important to create a future ID because it gives the participant the ability to use their imagination. I think there's a certain permission or allowance that society affords artists and artistic production. It becomes an invitation to engage ideas, concepts that might otherwise be challenging for people to entertain.
Everybody. This is my family. You're my family.
Many people I love and care about have been affected by the system. But because I've never been convicted, it's very important that people with this lived experience are central to the direction and messaging of this work.
1, 2. I do that every morning. It represents the past, the present, and the future. I came to prison when I was 19 years old, got out when I was 60. To have a job, to pay rent, to get up and fix your own meals every day, this is freedom.
My ID reflects what I've wanted in my life. I have an opportunity to connect with people through motherhood. Thank you for helping create this space.
The freedom that I get to live today in my life through choices I've made over the course of the past almost 15 years has continually given me another chance, and that's the message I'd like to convey to the people that cross my path in the life that I live today.
So much of your life is identified by the card you carry. Your license, your certifications, your business card. For those who are systems impacted, your life for a long time was identified by your prison ID.
Power to the people.
So rather than ask what do you want your life to have been, we ask people to project into the future, what would you like your life to be?
You get the credit. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Wow, you guys, what an honor. We don't need the slides. Let's go ahead and not look at those and just go to chat room format. Wow, you guys, thank you all. Thank you all, because many, many people in this meeting were part of this project at some level and helped us realize that. And I'm happy with the film, and I hope you are as well. There'll be more coming. Let's just go ahead and sort of use this wonderful opportunity of this virtual space to come together a little bit and touch base and hear from those of you who've been involved, so that we can get a glimpse at the sort of complexity of this mechanism that we built together, this long-term, large-scale project. And maybe what we'll do is we'll try to keep our comments short, 1 to 3 minutes, and then we'll sort of shrink it down a bit. But I wonder if we could begin with our host at this site, and maybe Emily and Kate and Takeo from National Park Service and the Golden Gate Parks Conservancy. And just want to invite you to kind of unmute yourselves if you can. And if you can't, we'll unmute you and just sort of talk a little bit about what it meant to you to have us there, and why, and any takeaways you have. Kate, would you like to start?
Oh, sure. Well, okay. Thanks for organizing this and having this, to ASU and you, Gregory, and everybody. I guess what I would just like to start by saying is, when, you know, the Golden Gate National Parks Conservancy, we're a nonprofit partner to the National Park Service and the Presidio Trust. We work with our federal partners to raise money, to do programs, and basically help facilitate public interaction with park spaces. And as a part of that, one of the programs that I started and run at the Conservancy is called the Arts in the Park program, which is really to connect visitors. The whole point of it is to connect visitors with creative experiences in the park at park locations that are transformative, unexpected, and inspirational. And I think when I first was connected with Gregory and he posed this idea, it was really exciting, because Alcatraz is one of our most iconic national park sites in the Golden Gate National Recreation Area. And I think Emily and Takeo can speak to this more, but having artists like Gregory and all of the artist participants in the project and collaborators in the project really bringing a personal face and story to the history that Alcatraz represents helps the visitors think about Alcatraz in a different way, think about prison in a different way, and really connect the past to sort of the future, and what's a future that we imagine, a future that addresses social justice issues and those kinds of things. So it was really exciting to work with Gregory, and then to meet Kirn and Luis and Dominic and Jessica and Kelly, all the people who participated. So
thank you.
Yeah, I just felt lucky to be a part of it in any small way. Emily or Takeo?
Can you unmute you?
Yeah, sure. I'll hop in real quick. Thank you, Kate. Thank you, Gregory, and everybody in this call. It's really, really lovely to see your faces. So just to briefly pick up on that, yeah, we are, so from the Park Service and the Parks Conservancy point of view, we are maybe about 4 years into a 10-year transition plan in terms of the interpretive presence of Alcatraz. We are really looking at this as a transition period, embracing Alcatraz as a historic site, as they mentioned in the film, a member of the International Coalition of Sites of Conscience. So an acknowledgement that this is a site where difficult, complicated history happened, people had very painful experiences, and thinking about, you know, how we can build on this history to hold meaningful community conversations about the present and contemporary incarceration. And so, you know, thinking about the sort of a big cultural role that Alcatraz holds. I think it's complicated. It's sometimes sensationalized, as Takeo says in the videos. Visitors come from all around the country and the community and the world with all kinds of different ideas about what they're going to experience. And so what Future IDs, from the perspective of, I think, the Park Service helping to manage the site with our partners, what Future IDs, one opportunity that it brought to the island was really a positive push, like a real tangible community-based positive push in this direction of, we talk a lot about catalyzing transformational thinking and experiences related to the themes of incarceration, justice, and our common humanity. So the idea is that we're charting a course for ourselves, for this institution, that we're moving in that direction. So, you know, by 2026, 2026 is the year, right? But we're moving in this direction of really thinking about incarceration, justice, and common humanity at this site. And so Future IDs, I think, showed staff and showed community members and general public visitors what this could look like. It was pretty emboldening. So I think, you know, there was some anxiety, some trepidation, some questions about, well, what does it look like to have the general public visitor walk into Alcatraz with, you know, some expectations. Maybe they're about Al Capone, maybe they're about something else, and to ask them to grapple with and to look into the face of these, you know, wonderful future IDs, and to people who are telling their stories of incarceration and reentry. What does that look like? And it was so heartening and I think emboldening to staff, community members, and visitors alike in a lot of ways to see that once that door was open, people walked through. And general public visitors walked through and staff walked through, and you know, we're able to start having some of these conversations, and really showed us kind of a little future vision of what Alcatraz as a space for this type of reflection, historically informed reflection on contemporary incarceration and reentry could look like.
Thank you. Takeo, do you want to talk now? Or do you want us to circle back around?
Yeah, I can just add something really briefly. Is my microphone working?
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, I think Kate and Emily summed it up beautifully, and I'll just add on that I'm really appreciative of all the folks who put this together, but in particular the artists and all the formerly incarcerated folks who contributed their work, put their work out there, and then physically, for those who could, actually came to the island. I know that a former prison site is not typically the first place that people who've been incarcerated might want to visit. And this island comes with all of its own issues in visitation, but this was such a beautiful program and experience. And I really appreciated being able to connect with folks like Sabrina and Cerise and Dominique, Kirn and Luis and everybody else I can't name here. So I learned a lot from everybody, and it really, I think, informed our park, and we learned a lot in how we want to move forward, and it helped me a lot with my community outreach with system impacted communities. So thanks to everybody out there.
Thank you, Takeo. Can we go ahead and just, I'm going to go ahead and jump right out to the other really important anchor on this. And I was wondering, Philip, if you would be willing to kind of step forward and talk a little bit, both about where and how you're anchored in the community, both of the folk who are part of this project, but also geographically in central LA, and how you see this work connecting with what you're trying to accomplish.
Yes, thanks. I want to thank everybody that made this kind of like possible. I remember from the beginning trials of it, and we're just putting the IDs together, and it's kind of like, you heard the vision, kind of like didn't see it until, we actually got into Alcatraz, got pieces up there, realized it, it was real. The Future ID concept and everything, I look at it as being something that's kind of like brilliant. Where you can kind of like give people an opportunity to kind of like paint their own futures and kind of like get on that pathway to kind of like, pursue that. So I use the program where I work down here in South Central LA, areas in Watson, Compton, with young folks is to give them and to help them see themselves, bigger than what they currently are, to give them kind of like a future kind of like, outlook. Coming from these communities, it's kind of like, disenfranchised, underserved, etc. A lot of time, the hope and, the zeal of life is kind of like sapped to a degree. And people kind of like don't see anything other than what's currently in front of them. So the idea with the Future ID, what I was able to bring here is to see how give people who are just not those who are formerly incarcerated, but those that might be like in a, you know, in a hardship situation, the opportunity to paint a better reality for tomorrow and have them kind of like pursue that, you know, that goal. Because sometimes you got to see something in order to be it. And just to put a person like on that pathway and let them chalk it out themselves, paint their own future. And that has been kind of like, you know, real like successful, kind of like, you know, here with me. And also I work with like survivors of crime. And, you know, people being able to see themselves in the future kind of like bigger and know that today is just today, but it doesn't kind of like determine what their tomorrow is going to be. I like the smiles, the zeal, you know, the enthusiasm, the ambition that it creates. It has been good for me in that respect. So I believe that, you know, the Future ID thing is not just something that's good for those who are, you know, who's been formerly incarcerated or those who weren't incarcerated, but people who haven't kind of like been there at all, for them to kind of like have like, you know, a future in front of them, something that they paint out and the ideal of themselves that they're determining and not somebody else kind of like, you know, making for them. So it has been helpful for me in that regard. And again, Future Ideas, something that I'm like, man, when I first got into it, I was kind of a little apprehensive, you know, even by drawing my own like future, because it was kind of like, you know, what did I really see? And you know, I was an artist, and the hardest thing was for me was to be able to draw myself. And once we got past that, I was able to do some successful things with it. And thanks to Future ID and the Ideal.
Thank you, Philip. Hey, Cerise, you kind of finished up the video for us, and I was wondering if you would jump in and kind of talk a little bit about what this meant to you and just your role in it.
Absolutely. So thank you. It was different for me being one of the, I guess, first kind of women and stuff being a part of it, because it was kind of difficult to get some women interested or involved in this, simply because we as females tend to be, I guess, by our whole society, I think, a little more shut down and not as verbose with what our experiences have been, which has been an amazing journey. And I look at it as just another opportunity that I've had in my life. Along with my entire prison incarceration time, this was a wonderful opportunity to get to go to the island and see these things and be there, and then really connect with people on a level outside of incarceration. Like you were speaking to earlier, with the having a future, everybody has a future, and everybody has an opportunity to do something different. And I thought it was an absolutely amazing opportunity to be a woman involved with so many men on this project. Thank you, Gregory.
Oh yeah, most definitely. And maybe that's a nice segue to Kelly and Jessica, and we can kind of sort of talk a little bit about your roles in the project, and we can jump back and forth between talking about, you know, people personally and then also the structure of the project. Kelly, do you want to start and talk about how you were involved in the project and who you are?
I'm Kelly Savage, and I just got out after 23 years. And I had the ability to work at the tail end of the project and kind of engage with others who were trying to understand like how to deal with the emotion of being on the island and seeing all these individuals and realizing that some of them were still incarcerated and what that felt like to individuals as they went through the space, and kind of understand that, you know, not everybody is out. A lot of people look and they think of this island as part of the past, not as part of today's society. And the truth is, we are all still grappling with many incarcerated individuals, and at this time right now, you know, it's harder to think about, you know, what they're going through as, you know, we would on a normal day basis. We would think differently about them. So so it was really interesting and unique, and, you know, I had the blessing of reconnecting with Cerise in this project, and that really felt really great. But it also was really empowering, just getting out and realizing how many people cared about people inside, because most of us don't realize while we're in that anyone cares out here. We are told often that we're throwaways and we're not part of society, and we don't think society is going to engage with us or even cares enough to try. And to find out about Gregory's project and all the people moving in that space allowed me the opportunity to bring it back inside and encourage the people that I was inside with to look at what their futures can look like. And I actually have one that is about to hopefully go to board next week, who actually is looking at her future ID. And it was because she saw a couple of the videos and we engaged a lot about the project. And so she actually did a report for her lawyer about what the future could look like. And that felt really good, knowing that we were still impacting people even after we've left the island.
Jessica, do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Yeah, I'm Jessica Tully, and I got to be one of the core collaborators, one of the two folks of the first set, and then Krista joined, and other folks joined who don't have a conviction history. But as a Bay Area artist and a social practice artist, similar to Gregory, in that we do community work and socially engaged artwork. And as a movement kid growing up in the Bay Area, our community was very blended in, incarceration and, the issues at play were part of, all that was also happening during the 70s and 80s and 90s here in the Bay. And so this opportunity to participate in Future IDs was amazing, because really, as a movement kid, you're taken to a lot of meetings and all you want to do is draw. So the fact that there was this beautiful set of self-portraits coming in with this kind of intention. I came on after those portraits were pretty much completed, but was, my part of the project was how to, help figure out how to have this major exhibition on an island, and how to kind of also bridge community groups and organizations as like Young Women's Freedom Center and other groups who came on as the 20 partners, and how to, kind of do those community bridges in a way that felt very reciprocal and help grow and build in each of the spaces. Another piece that I was really excited to have the opportunity to participate in was also considering the space. As a social practice artist, we're always, kind of thinking about the space in particular ways. And one piece was, having this exhibition, you take a ferry to an island, to a former prison, etc. How do we kind of warm this up and make this space safe, and make this space, kind of, also kind of designate, and consider how to have a place within our exhibition that was a decompression zone, or a place to kind of have reflection and consideration, and tea and coffee, and sometimes cookies. And to really kind of warm it up, and also have, we experimented and had the drawing materials and other art materials available there too. So if people wanted to kind of come in and out of the exhibition, which was extremely moving for both, folks who have conviction histories and folks who, have less of consideration, and, for whom these set of issues were very new. To have the space to kind of unpack that and hang out with Kelly, who's an expert facilitator, and and speak with myself and a couple of the other brilliant facilitators that the project brought in to, be live on site and work with those issues. Yeah.
That's great. Thank you. Sabrina, Emiliano, Kirn, Louise, who wants to jump in next and sort of scaffold something out from there? Sabrina, go for it. Okay.
Yeah. My name is Sabrina Reid. I am one of the co-collaborators, and I got connected with Gregory through the ARC Anti-Recidivism Coalition, one of the founding members of the Bay Area chapter. And at the time, I was working with the Sheriff's Department, finding people coming out of prison jobs, and also a member of the George Gascon District Attorney's advisory board for formerly incarcerated individuals in collaboration with the San Quentin newspaper. And my part in it was, for one, I'm local, I'm San Francisco, I'm a San Franciscan, and kind of getting the local community partnerships involved. And the most important part was of course, the event we had with Your Family is Incarcerated.
We lost you.
Did you? I don't know.
Say that again about your family.
Okay, so the most important part for me actually ended up being the Your Family is Incarcerated Too, where I got to bring my mom in and have her tell her story about what it was like having a daughter constantly incarcerated. And the healing that has happened from that, since that, and around that is probably the most life-changing part, even though all of it was wonderful. And yeah, I kept it short.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'll go next.
Okay.
Hello, everybody. My name is Emiliano Lopez. I got involved with Gregory through the Anti-Recidivism Coalition out here in Los Angeles. I met him in downtown LA. Somebody turned me onto this project and it sounded very interesting. So I met him on a Saturday and he just shoved a bunch of stuff in my hands and asked me to help him. And from there, he told me what the project was about. And I really took to it because I had no idea where I was going in my life. I had been out of prison for roughly 3 months, and I just needed an outlet of how to, a way to express myself. But Gregory provided a much better way, which gave me a platform to, spring forward into where I actually am going to go with my life. I never knew that this project was going to take this type of turn. It was going to gain so much popularity. And now, being out like a little over 3 years, I see, how powerful this project is and how many people it can help. It's amazing how many organizations came together to make Future IDs in Alcatraz happen. And I mean, I think everybody on this call who participated and gave it their all to make it what it was. And I hand it back to you, Gregory.
I was wondering, Kirn and Luis and Sarah and Carol, you were all there sort of when we went through that process to form the idea. It wasn't mine, it came up from the community. And I'm wondering if you can kind of speak to that process and any takeaways that you have sort of from those beginning, like, identifying the intention of reframing the narrative of reentry and, the community work around that and those sort of the multi-authored process to arrive at this project. Kirn, Louise, who wants to talk?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, everyone. This is Dr. Garcia. Yeah, I just wanted to say, I think as Emiliano had stated, this project started in downtown LA with ARC. I was also, I think, and we were in the same workshop, and this project snowballed into across the state. We landed in Fresno. We went into prison, Avenal State Prison. We ended up in the Bay Area. We ended up in the Future ID space, and talk about social embeddedness across the the state. With this project, when from that initial workshop came forth with bringing together different sectors, different disciplines, different views on reentry, reintegration, and in the forums, the public spaces that the monthly forums that we had on the island, people were able to see another side of the traditional narratives of what formerly incarcerated or people that are incarcerated currently are. They were exposed to the art, and through our through the public programming, I think the people were able to see the resilience, hope, and transformation that this project has contributed to these spaces across California, in particular Alcatraz.
Carol, you're unmuted. Do you want to talk a little bit about some of the early work at San Quentin and your involvement? And
yeah, I'll try to be really brief.
it was an incredible opportunity for the men's who sort of are basically invisible people inside to the larger public to know they had this opportunity to thank for the, you know, the workshop you led, the way they can envision a future. And some of those guys are out now, and others are going up to board. I mean, this can really help support that, the public being ready as well as individuals going through that. But to know ultimately what happened when they got the pictures back of the events, and they see pictures of their work blown up huge and seen by, you know, thousands and thousands of people, it provides a lot of support inside and helping make people visible that we just block out. So that side of it's really important to me, working inside for so long, that you're getting these voices out to the public, and I hope it continues. and I want, the movie is fabulous, and it would be great to get, I think we could get that on the, you know, the TV inside the prisons in California, and that would be, I would love to see that. So,
oh, that's a great
when
idea.
it's ready, we'll work on that.
Yeah. Kirn, go. You're on.
Yeah. So what was really great about this project, I mean, it's, as I said in the video, I came home in 2012, and back then justice reform was just barely starting to pick up. And being one of the early lifers to come home, it was very much a struggle for me to be able to re-enter society. And so seeing something like this and communicating with people on the inside, I mean, before even Future IDs came out, just being able to speak to people on the inside, whether even over the phone or in the rare instance early on of in-prison visits, the impact of seeing people who others had done time with, you know, that you had done time with personally, it was great in bringing people hope. I mean, you saw for the longest time in prison, as mass incarceration was ramping up, there was no hope. People just said, I'm never going to go home, so why should I even bother trying to reform myself? And as people were coming home and people inside saw that there were opportunities being given and there were opportunities to succeed, you know, that was the brilliance behind, you know, Gregory's vision for this project. You know, it's a guiding post to—
Are you guys professors at ASU?
Some of us, yes.
Oh, you guys are all academic, like you work in the academia world?
No, I would say 5% work in academia.
Okay. People in academia are so into gardening.
Okay.
Like if you check the faculty profiles in the website, they all are into gardening.
Well, in some ways we're gardening, but in a different kind of context.
Okay.
We're planting seeds for future. We're planting seeds for hope for people in the future. Now,
for people who've come out of prison.
Yeah.
Continue, Kirn. Sorry about that.
I'm gonna leave now because I think I'm in the wrong room.
Yeah. Thank you.
I'm jealous because Arizona looks like a sunny place and California's cold as fuck. Oh, sorry. Okay, goodbye.
Okay, I lost my train of thought.
All good, Kirn.
I feel like people in Arizona just—
Yeah. Okay. So, but yeah. So for people to see a project like this, where especially we were able to go into prisons and talk to people, you know, and they were able to see people like me, Luis, and others formerly incarcerated, you know, having success, spreading the word of a hope and opportunity to people on the inside. And so a project like this was a guidepost for people to strive for in order to, not exactly a roadmap, but at least to help start a goal, an end goal for their life, and really plan towards a future for themselves. And Gregory saw my struggle when I first came home because there were no opportunities back then. But now it's great to see that opportunities are really ramping up here in California, and we hope to really spread that message nationally, because there are lots of states who are falling behind on this.
That's great. And I want to go to you, Sarah, but let me go out to Arizona first, maybe. And I want to just grab and say that this is sort of, it was sort of anchored in Arizona as well, both here at ASU, but also in the community. And I was wondering if either you, Patricia, or you, David, might talk about that a little bit. David, do you want to start? You have to unmute. There we go. Oh no, try to unmute yourself. Oh, Patricia, David's not unmuted yet. Why don't you start?
All right, I'll go.
There we go.
So I would have been cued off of Kirn, because hope is really the mantra of what I believed was the existence of the program at the Maricopa Reentry Center, which DJ will probably talk about. But this launching of the program was a logical, maybe that's the problem, is some of these things that we need to do are just should be common sense, and they're just not. So watching the fellas evolve in this very interesting project of their ID as an inmate, and now their ability to be the person that we, more importantly, that they want to be, was really what this was all about. So bringing it in and letting the residents see that it wasn't just lip service, but it was reality, that there was people in this world, in our communities, that believed in them, that had faith in them, that they could be something more than that name on a prisoner ID card. That was really what it was all about.
And Patricia, can you just talk just a moment about what your role was at the center?
I was the deputy warden, so I was the highest ranking authority on the campus. I was the presence from the Department of Corrections, an extension under community corrections. So the fellows that were coming to us were on parole, so they'd already served their time in prison and were struggling, frankly. And the main struggle continues to be substance abuse. And much of that is deep-seated issues that they need to be working through and resolving. So what another amazing way to illustrate for them their affirmation of being a legitimate part of our community by creating their own entity.
Thank you. David, do you want to join in for a moment?
Oh, yes. Am I unmuted now?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So first of all, I want to take my hat off, tip my hat, and send a big salute out to all of you that have came in just to conglomerate and put this thing together. I did my personal experience with Gregory Sale and Patty Barnhart. My life has changed and unfolded before, like, not just your very eyes, but before my very eyes. And when we put that pencil to paper and we're on that light board creating my ID, I was all over the place, a whole lot of love, a whole lot of energy, and nowhere to really aim it. So it was just everywhere. And the reentry project really, with at least with Maricopa Reentry Center, they touched me and allowed me to remember that I am a human and not just the DOC number. And I spent almost 15 years of my life incarcerated, and it just took just a couple people, a couple mentors, people that believed in me to help me believe in myself. And when we put that pencil to paper on that light box and we wrote DJ Cruz, drew me and put life coach underneath it, I have watched my life. I've experienced my life manifest exactly what we put on paper. And today I'm heading something called the Navigator program with a healing center out of Scottsdale, Arizona, and I'm the head mentor, recovery coach on that with that program, and it's just been amazing.
So, you know, guys, we're almost out of time. I wanted to give Sarah maybe just a quick moment. I know we didn't get to everybody. For some reason I had in my brain we had another 10. We don't. There's many people I would like to acknowledge who are in this call. And just to say, Sarah, can you talk for just a quick second about some of the work you're doing with those of us who are forming next stages around this? Might be a good way to take us.
Yeah, so I'm Sarah Delighted. I'm an artist and a facilitator. I co-directed a place called the Bunny House, where it was one of the spots that we incubated Future IDs. And I've just been very committed to Gregory and the rest of the collaborators since then. one of the things I'm feeling really interested about, partly because of what we're in right now, you know, with our public health, but also I think from that incubation period where we did a lot of this in a house that was also an art space. I'm just thinking a lot about like where this can happen, where can the work continue, and thinking really openly around place. I say that having a particular interest in working from spatial design and practice a lot. But I'm also really interested. I mean, to me, I've come to really appreciate some of the leaders that spoke here today, like Emiliano and Kirn and Sabrina and Luis. You know, it's been several years now of working together, and I'm curious about how to build some kind of way to further support leadership with any of you around Future IDs, as well as, you know, whatever entrepreneurial initiatives you might have coming, you know, that got sparked through this process for you. So that's just really brief, Gregory. And again, I'm interested too to hear what you want, but I think there's a lot of room to look at this as a network that can keep iterating now, again, in multiple places, which can still include the prison spaces themselves.